What's up, guys? Welcome to the Kingdom Men Transform Nation podcast, brought to you by our sponsor, The Acquisition CEO. If you're looking to buy or sell a business, hit him up in the link below. And today, I have a very, very, very special guest on the podcast for this month of May. We're talking about mothers and Mother's Day. And I conned my wonderful, beautiful wife into being on the podcast last minute. And so this is my wife, Lachey Rogers. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I'll start off with wife, mother, and our daughter is 9, and real estate agent for 7 years, and so I also homeschool. So
you have a full plate.
Very.
I'm sure a lot of people are curious about what does it mean to be a real estate agent. Let's talk a little bit about how you got into that, because a lot of people are always curious, hey, what if I just go get my license? But you actually were pretty fortunate to be able to take a little bit of a different route. You had a mentor. So tell us a little bit about that, because a lot of people in the audience, they always want to know, how do I get into business for myself?
Sure,
What'd that look like?
So 7 years ago, Maddie was just a little thing, but we had worked hard for me to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I wasn't really looking for a job, but obviously the Lord had different plans. And so we had a very good family friend that had sold a lot of homes for your family. And actually, we bought our first house with her, and she was looking to eventually retire out. And I was very blessed to have her take me on, and my first firm was great to me and really just taught me a lot. And then it just kind of rolled from there. And we have big roots in Hendersonville. And so once the word got out about that I was an agent, then God really just opened that door, and we just kept taking step by step.
Having a mentor right out of the gate added a lot of value to you.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's one of the things I tell people all the time, and the reason it's important to have a mentor or a coach is because the quickest way to overcome the hard road is to have somebody help you that's done it more than you have. I mean, even in a sport like volleyball, you have a coach to help you figure out how to get from being terrible to land at where you want to arrive at as a player.
Absolutely.
And then we forget that concept in life. But then also the other flip side of that you heard, the other side of that you mentioned, was having relationships. Like we grew up in Henderson County. Nowadays, there's not even a lot of people in Henderson County that are from Henderson County. I think a lot of people, they get hung up on marketing and T-shirts and logos and all that, and that has its place. But you've heard me say this before, that relationships build recession-proof businesses. And even Rick Ruby's somebody that told me that.
Right. Well, and, we grew up there, so we had a lot of deeper roots throughout the community. And so we had actually been building those relationships long before that job ever even was about. And we've had clients that have talked about that. The client that I sold 2 years ago, that relation started when I was in high school. So it's all about relationships and building that. And like you were saying the other day, dating your client. It's definitely having that relationship and being able to build on that, and then them not only knowing you, but knowing what you do at that point.
So I always say you can't catch a fish if you don't go fishing. And one of the things I think about too, when I was young, I knew that I wanted to grow up and do things in business and be married and have a family. And I had that concept in mind from a young age. And so everywhere I worked, everything I did, I wanted to do a good job. And I think a lot of times people forget the potential impact of that long term. It's like an investment when you're young. If you're a good athlete in high school or middle school, then that could lead to future. That's going to build relationships. People are going to remember you when you become a professional, whatever it is that you do. Same thing if you do a good job. If you get a job when you're 12, 13, 14, 15 years old and you're a hard worker and you have a lot of work ethic and you do what you say, when you get older, those people that had those businesses are going to remember you and who you are. And when you have your own business, they're going to be like, oh, well, I remember that guy or that girl from when they played on the sports team or when they did this, and they have a lot of work ethic. And so that's like an investment.
Well, I actually got that one client in Canuga off of that. He remembered my work ethic from volleyball days.
And that was probably, a $20,000 paycheck? Yeah. So because you were diligent, who God made you to be as a young lady, you were rewarded for that later in life. That's why I always talk about the difference between spending time or spending things in life versus investing. And so an investment has a return on it. It may just not be as soon as we think it might be.
Right.
But
and you never know. You never know what seeds you're planting and then when you'll harvest that seed.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, too. You're always planting seeds. I think people forget that. We're always planting something, and it's just a matter of time before we harvest what we've planted. Right. It may not be soon, but at some point it's coming down the road.
Well, and I think I think as a teenager, I really paid attention to that because my little sister there's 8 years difference. And all I ever wanted to do was be a mom and have a family. Growing up, I never had these big aspirations of corner office and being a doctor or anything. I just wanted that, and I even got joked for it, that white picket fence life. And so when Steph came around, she was my kid. And so I always knew she was watching. And so there's always somebody watching. You're always planting that seed. And if you're diligent in just the everyday, someone is always watching you, whether you know it or not.
That's a good point.
So,
well, I think there's power in that. And you do have a pretty cool corner office at the house that overlooks the pool and the goats.
I do have the best office.
So you have the best room in the house for a home office.
For sure.
You lucked out on that one. And somehow, even though your dog is the hairiest, I think your office is probably the cleanest out of the two of ours.
Yes, because I'm never actually in it.
Right.
Because the office is at the barn or the office is down on the Nugget doing homeschool. And so
let's talk about some of those kind of things. We talked a little bit about entrepreneurship and being a good steward of life when you're a young lady or a young person, and how that kind of led into other opportunities and the power of relationships. But let's talk about the challenges of being a mom and an entrepreneur and homeschooling, because we didn't necessarily set out to do homeschool from when Maddie was born. We had always thought about it, but then COVID shut the schools down, and we were like, all right, well, let's go do this thing. And that primarily has been your responsibility. You know, I just help with distractions during the day.
Very much so. Yes.
We do oil changes together. We do fun dad projects.
The extracurriculars.
Yeah, we do extracurriculars. Like go to Build-A-Bear. That's a homeschooling journey. You got to learn how the things are put together. I think, you know, the other day I bought our daughter Build-A-Bear and Shay. We were in the store and she was like, "Sucker!"
It was very much so, because I had already said, "I'm not buying it. I'm not doing it." So then Dad comes along with the.
Dad comes along and saves the day. When you have a little daughter, when people say having a daughter will change you, it absolutely will change you. It's so funny.
I think there's a difference too, because I'm with her all the time.
Sure.
And I have to put up with the stuff.
Yeah.
And you get to come in and just be, woohoo, let's go do something fun.
Yeah, of course. So. That's my job. That's my job. That's funny. But talk to us a little bit about the struggles, or not the struggles, but the challenges, because a lot of people are curious about that too. How do you do entrepreneurship? How do you do real estate? How do you stay married for going on 16 years to this crazy guy? Do all those things, and then also throw homeschool in the mix. Plus a horse. Like, people ask me all the time, like, how do you do so many things? And my answer is I don't have a lot of distractions. You know, I don't really go hang out with people. I don't go do all that, any of that. You know, I'm not big into sports. I don't do those things. I like to work out, and hang out with y'all.
Right.
Do things at the house. That's primarily my life. And so I think a lot of people, they pick up too many distractions. But talk to us a little bit about, you know, your thought process on how you organize your day and just the whole thing, because homeschooling is a big ordeal.
So definitely homeschool is definitely a big portion of my mental day. Realistically, having one kid at home and homeschooling without the distractions or without having to take a mental break would probably take us about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And that's covering all 6 co-op classes, reading, math, the whole kit and caboodle. But there's times where there's a distraction or there's life or whatever. But mentally, it takes prep work outside of the actual schooling time to be able to figure out what's next. Think about next year's curriculum, what's best, how she's learning, what she's learning, why she's not learning it, those types of things. There's definitely a struggle, and there's days where I want to quit and go to the principal's office and turn it all over.
You are the principal.
I know. So that makes it hard. But then there's days where it finally clicks on something, or we will be out reading a sign and she'll say, "Hey, Mom, that's a compound word." And I'll be like, praise the Lord. It's working.
Right.
But I think you and I also homeschool in a way that life is school.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, you know, she's at the barn. Well, the classes that we do for our horse show is teaching her geometry and angles, and she has to do a 360-degree turn, or what is a 90-degree turn, or what quarter of the horse do you need to be at for the judge. So there's all kinds of things like that when you can take it and bring it outside of the school book or the curriculum, then for us it makes life more fun. And then you can bring in the extracurriculars, the horse, the oil changes, and all of that into her actual schooling. So.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about that is horsemanship in general. They're what? Leadership, love leadership,
language, and leadership
language,
is
yeah.
what we...
And so those are three leadership. I mean, those things right there, love, leadership, and language, are three traits that help her not only build a relationship with her horse, but her ability, and I mean, our ability in general to navigate a lot of things in life.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So I think that applies to a lot of things. And I think it's important to recognize that homeschooling, a lot of people, they think that homeschooling has to be in alignment with your traditional school model. And a lot of times
exact opposite.
It's not. It is not. And it's not about teaching a monkey teaching an elephant how to climb a tree like a monkey. It's literally teaching kids to be able to utilize and pour into their skill sets and talents that God's given them and sharpen those things and grow in those things. And sometimes it's tough, but I would say it's challenging because it's learning and teaching, and you're having to learn how to be a teacher and teach the stuff we haven't looked at in 20 years.
Well, and there's times like with Latin. I never knew Latin, so I literally make it a joke that we're both going to school together.
That's those words you yell at me.
Yes, exactly. No, but as far as balancing it all, there is definitely a struggle some days, especially, but just like with real estate, it's not a 9-to-5. Well, homeschooling is not a 9-to-5 either. So I think the main thing for us and Maddie is the communication of, hey, this is a work call. Mm-hmm. You go do this. Now she's at an age where I can give her independent work. You go do this. When you're done with this, you can go play for 5 minutes until I'm off the phone, or whatever it may be. And I've realized that the rhythm of our day, not so much a certain time and routine, but the rhythm of our day, along with communication, plays a big role in how we can intertwine all of those things together. So.
I also think you're really pretty. And I just like having you on the podcast because I love you.
I love you too.
And it's neat to hear you talk about these things. And so kind of our concept in general is to be good stewards of the things that God's given us and set ourselves free from the typical work school model to where we can build a life that, we want to live instead of being trapped by all those things. And it hasn't always been that way because we both started out with jobs. But then as God took us on the journey of entrepreneurship and business and things, we kept having faith, right? Mm-hmm. It's not an easy road to hoe necessarily. And you touched on something earlier, like homeschooling's not 9-to-5, being an entrepreneur is not 9-to-5. None of it's 9-to-5, but it gives us freedom. I mean, when we work there sometimes, we're working on a Saturday, we're working on a Sunday, we're working on a Friday night, or whatever that may be. Like I've got an appointment tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Right. But
then there's some days where we can, if we're off, or we can just go to the beach, or we can do what we want to do, or we want to go to the park, or we want to take a day and go eat Mexican food together. We get to go do those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are humongous blessings, for sure. And that's something that, we work hard for. I think the trick with homeschooling is that it's not what you and I were taught, and breaking that mold. And then the hardest part for me, as a homeschool mom, entrepreneur, wife, is doing what's best for her. And I think, call it a blessing, call it a curse, but she learns a lot like I do. Mm-hmm. So I know the struggles that I had. And so for me, at the beginning, I put a lot of pressure on her for those things because out of the heart of me, I didn't want her to struggle with those things as well. So there was a lot of pressure on that. But then stepping back and letting her learn and realizing that if somebody says she's behind, well, she's behind to what?
Right, according to
the state. Well, does that really matter? Because one thing that I have to keep in mind is she may not be the best at chemistry. And do I really? No, she's not learning that in a way right now. But even if it's
algebra level 40.
Algebra, well, she has to know a certain amount of it because there is some of that intertwined. But do I need to force that one topic to her at 5th grade, 4th, 5th grade? No, because if she gets to the point where she wants to learn chemistry and she wants to be a chemist, or she wants to do that, or she even wants to do medicine. Well, when she gets to the point where she wants to learn that, she will learn that.
Yep.
And so forcing that on her now is shooting us both in the foot.
Well, it's
me
counterproductive.
as her teacher.
Well, and it's counterproductive. How many kids do you know, even like Davis growing up, where the poor kid was tortured by math and that he never really was going to use?
Right.
And so coming to terms with that.
But give him a welding mask and he can weld anything he wants.
I mean, he put a turbo in his truck a week ago. He was sending me pictures of.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the important parts of homeschooling and just setting people free from the system of that is realizing that those are not the things that create our identity.
Right.
Being a 5-star math expert can be a great thing, but it's not necessarily a great thing for everybody if that's not what they want to do.
Sure.
And I always laugh because when we were in school, teachers literally would say, "You'll never carry You'll never carry a calculator in your pocket." Well, we literally carry a calculator in our pocket,
right,
literally.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, like what society or people thinks is important has no real value in life later on. In fact, I would say that being a 5-star straight A student is less valuable than building the relationships that you built as a young person, having a good work ethic, and being a good young person to build relationships that would last 30, 40 years.
Well, not only that, but as far as work ethic, not just work ethic, but like, with the horse, I can't tell you how many different ways our horse has changed my life and her life.
Mine.
Right. Your wallet too, I'm sure. You don't have to go into that. And so,
skip that person.
So, but, we initially, when we first got into this, our motto was, no, you can't just go jump on the horse. You got to learn the hard parts too. And so now she understands it's not, I don't just get one lesson a week. I have to go every day to help take care of this horse and to build that work ethic. And I think she also sees that in us as far as entrepreneurship. She helped me clean a house. I paid her $40. Well, now she has her own lasso, but she worked hard for it, which is why I got mad at you the other day, because I was like, you have to work hard for these things. And then she says, "Daddy," and bats her eyes, and she gets a.
She's been wanting that, but she's been wanting the axolotl for a while. Okay.
Yeah, but just 2 months ago, you took her somewhere.
Peanut the cow.
Yeah, but
you got to collect them all.
But I do think, even at probably 4 years old, she knew my email address and my phone number because she heard me leaving it on voicemails.
Yep.
And so she's constantly listening. I don't know that she'll be a real estate agent, having to live through both of us doing it.
Doing all that.
But she gets that and she sees that in us, and I think that that's a on top of what the work ethic that she has to do and things like that. She sees that it takes. We don't just go to work and get a paycheck. We have to work to get our paycheck. So.
And it's the sweetest thing. It's a huge blessing to my soul to see y'all together, like to come to the barn and see her doing things, or to see her down there laying on the nugget with Shelly in the sunshine in the window doing homework.
Right.
I'm like, it just melts my heart because I know that, like, I was bullied a lot in school and picked on, and so I was always afraid. I didn't like school. It was not a great place for me.
I hated school because I was horrible at it.
Yeah. So it was not a good thing for my mindset,
Right.
But I know she feels comfort and love and safe, and she's okay right there. She has her earbuds in. She have her iPad playing. She'd be doing math stuff. Shelly's laying there passed out, with her head in her lap. And it's just it's mental pictures like that. That's why I'm full of gratitude, because to see that and to be part of that, this is a huge blessing in my life. And you made an important note earlier. Comparison's the thief of joy. A lot of parents, a lot of people, and even in entrepreneurs, they compare themselves to other people, and they compare their kids to other people's kids, and there's this whole comparison thing. And I got bad news. There's always somebody out there bigger, stronger, faster, more money, whatever it may be. There's always going to be someone who that comparison is not a pretty thing to stack up against. So it's a better idea to eliminate that, look yourself in the mirror, and do the best that you can for yourself on a regular daily basis, and be committed to that kind of consistency rather than looking outside the windows to see what's going on in life.
And I was listening to a podcast probably about a month ago, and it was on parenting. And one of the things that's really changed some of the questions that I've asked Maddie is, and we've done this for years, is when we go to bed, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? And then what do you have any questions about the day? Anything that happened. Sometimes it's like, why is the moon round? Or sometimes it's, well, why did we have to wait so long? And so we really have some very in-depth conversations before we go to bed. But one of the key questions that this lady asked was, instead of as the parent saying, I'm proud of you, ask the child, are you proud of yourself? And good. So I've been asking Maddie after her lessons or whatever. Now, obviously she's 9, and forever I've told her I'm proud of her, because definitely words of affirmation are one of her love languages. But I've been asking, are you proud of yourself? Because I feel like that makes her think, yeah, I did do a good job. Or if she didn't do a good job and she still says that she is proud, deep down she knows, oh, maybe I should have done this differently. But that also makes her be proud of herself and not seek outside engagement, validation for proving herself to others.
Yeah. No,
so
I agree. That's awesome. And I want to say, men couldn't be men without women, right? Women are much
right.
more. I'm just saying, it is critical. And even in my life, I wouldn't be the man or husband I am without you and your love and your patience and a lot of times tolerance and support, because I need you, and that's why I want to have some ladies on and say, thanks for being a mom. Thanks for being my wife. Thank you for being a mom to Maddie. It's super sweet. And Mother's Day happens in May. I'm usually terrible at events and those kind of things and special days. And you don't like them so much either. We don't really celebrate. We don't get big in celebrating those things.
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right. There's a hint. Okay. I need to write that down. Send me an email. Can you put that?
I think this is on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So you can go back and look.
Yeah, you put that on. Sounds like I should make that important. But no, I love you, and I want to say thanks for being on. And I always ask people at the end, if there's one piece of advice that you could give somebody to make a difference in their life, whether it's personal or business or relationship, mom, whatever it is, what's one thing that you would give somebody that you think would make a big difference in their life?
Well, that's a loaded question.
You get one answer.
Is my answer. No, I would say get a relationship with God, because I would not be here. We would not be here. There's a lot that goes on in marriage and motherhood and business and homeschooling that not many people understand, that if I wouldn't be able to go to God and just say, here's all my baggage, here's my thoughts, help me, I would be lost. So I feel like I'm nothing without him. So
in that relationship.
Yeah. And it's a daily.
Yeah.
So it's hourly sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's it.
That's good. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good job, babe.
Thanks.
I got to do an outro. Blah, 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 blah.
Go for it.
Thanks, Smoking Hot Babe, to being on the Transforman Nation podcast today. Brought to you again by our sponsor, the Acquisition CEO. If you want to buy or sell a business, hit him up in the link below. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And let's go do some winning. See ya.
See ya.